Hello everyone, let's kick off the Android track with our first presentation called Beauty Treatment for a Mobile Application. So please welcome Google developer expert Jose Apia.
Hey. Alright. Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me today. I know it's pretty early on a Sunday, so I'm really thankful for that. What we're going to speak about here today is how to go this extra mile to make our apps look nice, to stand out over the rest. Because we always have already a lot of work on making our apps work, and we always wonder how these apps that we all like do to make this extra things. There are many things involved. Obviously, there are things with many designers, many developers, and that's one thing. But there are things that we can do really easily to get to that level. And sometimes we don't do them because we think it's really hard or it's, I don't know, rocket science or something like that. And it's really not. So these things that we are going to speak about today, I put the Android and the iPhone. Those things can be applicable to both platforms. That's why I put them there. Since this is a DevFest, it had no point that we will focus on iOS, so we'll see the code on Android. But you know that you can apply this to both of them. This is something that is also applicable to designers. So we are going to see code, but it will be between the bridge built by developers and designers. You don't have to be a kick-ass developer to understand that. You can be also a designer. The idea here is that that's not me. The idea is that we find, we developers lean a bit more on the side of designers. We don't have to be rock stars, but just that we understand how it works and the other way around so that we get this to work seamlessly. Real quick about me, I'm not in lack of love, so this is not about me, it's more about that you can find me as well. I'm sharing my Twitter, my Google Plus account, and I will be around here. So this is a topic that I like to speak about, so you can reach me at any point and we can have a chat. That's the reason we put that there. There's a bit of mobile and cloud over there. If you want to speak about beer, I will be delighted, as you can see. But yeah, I've worked in Wunderlist in the past. I've built my own agency as well. I'm right now working at a company called Locate in Berlin. I will speak a bit more at the end about it. We built this smart bike log so that you can put it on your bike, or if you have fleet of bikes, you can put it there. We can track them in a good way, no privacy concerns. And we are looking for people, so it will be great to hear your thoughts. So let's go with it. I will start with a story. Because this is when I came to Berlin 3-4 years ago. I joined Wunderlist. And it was at that point where Android was really ugly, let's be honest. It was 2.2, 2.0, it was pretty bad. So when I arrived there and I said my first day, all right, let's see the Android app. How was the Android app? And then there was one folk showing me the Android app, showing me, like, I remember it was an Android device, that's for sure. But then after he showed me, I said, okay, now show me the Android app. It was in fact the Android app, but it looked like the iOS app, and I'm sure you have gone through that a few times. So what do I mean with this? Don't get me wrong, in this company, I have worked with possibly the best designers I've met in my life. They are really good, but the point is, at that point, it was a fair thing to do this. It was fair to say, all right, let's build an app that looks just like iOS, because this is what all the people is doing. So that was right, but we know that very well now that this is not right, that this is really a poor way to do it. It's as if I came here today and I did my presentation in Spanish just because it's convenient to me, because I know Spanish. I'm from Spain, so I'll do it in Spanish. So 4 of you may understand me, but that's not the goal. An Android user is used to Android patterns, is used to interactions that happen in other apps, in the Gmail app, in the system itself, in the messages. So it makes sense to build your app keeping your style, consistency, keeping your image as a company. But it also makes sense to find this middle ground between your app and the system, so that the users can understand these patterns that they already know, right? They don't have to learn everything from scratch. And another thing that I wanted to mention on that direction is that even if you meet the best designers or the best developers, don't just follow them blindly, even if other people is doing other things. People working at Google or Facebook or in any other company, your company, William Scout, in any company in the world, they might be really good, but they're human, they make mistakes. If you remember Johnny Ive's iOS 7, I don't know what you think, but to me, the first time I saw it was awful. And Andrew at the beginning was awful as well. So the quote is going to be a fanboy because what you have, the needs that you have in your work, in your product, is different. So always assess different options. Don't just follow blindly because you know better what you have to build yourself. So just diving into it. The idea of this talk today is, as we said, to go the extra mile to make your app stand out from the rest. But also, what you get with this subtle animations and interactions, you help the user to understand your use case. So for instance, if you have one button on the top left corner, and this button is becoming something else on the next screen, and you want to help him or her know this button can move sideways, so you can make subtle animations when you transition from activities, for instance, to let them show that. So this is what you get, right? And there are really simple ways to make that. You don't have to go really crazy. And to give you so that you trust me, the most complex operation we'll do today is a sin, which is this mathematical operation that we all learn in primary school. So I think we should all be fine from here on. Let us start with something that you all should know. View pages. Is it anybody here who doesn't know what a view pager is? Okay, has anybody not used the transformer in view pages? Alright, outside. Go home. No, maybe you can help me in a second so that we get to it. Well, these are, as you know them very well. They have this horizontal navigation. You can put different views to help the users identify how to navigate between sections which are part of the same let's say activity. And those view pages have transformers because the usual interaction is pretty dull. It's pretty simple. Sometimes it may work, but if you need to do something else, there are really easy ways to get something better. And that's what the transformer does. The transformer is exposing you an interface that you can override, so that you can modify the view while it scrolls. So the transformer this method transform page will be called every time on every frame that the user moves, scrolls on the view. And this goes from -1 to 1, and the reason is that it is being applied to both views. So there's always one view that goes away, or it's on the left side. There's another view that goes to the right side. That's why you have this -1 to 1. -1 is the final position of the left view, so where it ends, when it gets completely out of the screen. 1 is the same, but on the other side. With this information, that means that you will get on every swipe, on every frame of the swipe you do, you will get 2 calls to this method because you will get 1 for each page. You have 2 pages always visible. So if you see that you have the view page, that's whatever is inside of one of the pages, the left one, and the next call you will get whatever is on the right side. And the position will be a number either between -1 and 0, or from 0 to 1. And you can play with that. And what things you can do with it? You can, what I would recommend you is that you split things in all the view properties that you have to modify, so that you first understand it. Because we see this animation, for instance, and it's like it goes really quick, and we are kind of faking it to the eye, to the human eye, because we have our defects. And it's like, I have no idea what it's doing really. But if you split it, if you play slow-mo, or if you draw yourself, it's always a good way to see how you want your animation to work. And in the end, if you see, this is 3 view properties that we are modifying here: rotation, scale, and pivot. And you can see them in the whole axis. So the x-axis is from -1 to 1, is what we said before, is this translation on the view pager. And the y-axis is each of the properties, from which value to which value it goes. And here you can see clearly in that one. So when the view is in the middle, in 0, we'll have a rotation y of 0, we'll have a scale of 1, that is, it's on its original size, and the pivot will remain the same. If you see, when we start scrolling quickly, you see that the scale goes quickly to 0.9. It becomes a bit smaller, and it's there for the entire part of the rotation until it comes near to 0. How do we do the other? The scale is simple. How do we do the other? The rotation. It's really simple as well. We are modifying the rotation y of the view, and this is what causes. And this is why I have this for here. What causes that it looks that it's somehow like transitioning in. The rotation wise is what modifies this angle, right? So when you see it coming out, we are modifying the rotation until 0.3 and minus 0.3. So it goes like this, and then scales, and then moves. The translation is implicit on the view page, where it already moves to the side, as you know. So that's what causes this effect. You see that when it goes to the right, it's instead of that, it's that one, and that is caused by the pivot. If you see the pivot here, on 0 we are completely changing it. 0 is when it goes to the left side, and then 10 is not 10, it's the size of your view, it's the width of your view, is when it's going to the right side. So that the pivot tells it from where it has to spin, what is the reference point. That's why it feels like one is going to that side, the other one is to that side. But as soon as you have that, you see that it's easier to understand, right? Is it easy to understand? I'm seeing some faces that looks like, I don't know, the Bible in Hebrew. All right, I hope it is. We will see from here, there's still some gap until you put it in code, but I will share some utility methods that will make this really easy for you. Let's check the other one. The other one is even a bit simpler. The only tricky part, as you see, the spinning. The translation X is going first all the way to the right side, and then it's coming back. And what is this? We all know that this is a wave function. This is a sin function. It's going until p half, which for us, pi half, which for us is 0.5 as well, because we go from 0 to 1. It's going to that side, and then when it reaches here, it comes back. So you get this sense of the spinning circle. The scale, you see that it goes down until 0.5 as it goes up. You see that it's smaller every time. You see that's the scale going to 0.5. It doesn't matter if it goes to -1 or to 1. And the alpha, you can see the early modification to the alpha happens from 0.4 to 0.6 and from -0.4 to -0.6. So that it disappears right when it's on the edge. You see it disappears over there? So they don't collide. And that's it. These are the three properties that we are changing here. So how can we represent this? How can we understand this? In the end, it's a collection of values of x and y's, right? This is what we saw. So if you translate that to an array of floats, this is what you get. This, for instance, in the top one, you get that you want that on 0, you want a rotation y of 0, -2, you want a rotation -0.1, you want a rotation of -2, and so on and so forth. We are simply specifying the points where we want the function to change. It's that simple. And as soon as you have that, you have described the function itself. It's like if you have a sin, the sin describes the function itself, because this is y is a function of x that we have been told so many times in primary school. There's sometimes when you don't have the function yourself. When you don't have it, you can describe the points and use this utility method that everything that I'm showing here, by the way, is open sourced. I will put the link at the end, so you have access to everything that I will be showing here. You can just grab the code and use it yourself. So this method is included there, and this method will give you, based on the current position, based on the current progress, let's say I'm moving my view page to the side and I'm, let's say, in 0.45, right? This will be the position that you see there. If you pass the x values, the array of x values that we saw before, and the y values, which is q points and values, and you pass the position, this will return the value that you have to apply to the view, the value in the function. It doesn't matter where it is. So you have that, and you can apply that directly to the rotation y, to the alpha, to whatever property you are changing, so that it does that for you. On view pages, there are I would really recommend, if you're interested in them, these two resources. Just View Pager by Jay Finstons. I'm sure you know him. He did the sliding menu that many of us have used, especially in 2012, 2013. He has this View Pager with, which is pretty much a configuration with a lot of animations and setups. You have a sample app and you can see a lot of really fancy animations. He has like 10 or 15. It's a really good way to learn because it's also open source, as you can see there. But also there are good resources on Android, on developers. You get a really simple explanation on how to do the things that we are doing. So those two resources you have to definitely check them out. A list and collections and recycled view, I'm sure we all have used them. They are really crucial part of our applications. They determine everything. All of us have a list of things that we have to show that then turn into a detailed view. It's a crucial part of the Android ecosystem. And many things like quick return, header, dynamic action bar, many things come from here. Many animations that you see there come from these patterns. The good thing is that all the views, any view that scroll, works similarly. So what we saw before in the view page, we can apply it to here. What do we need though here? The first thing that we need is to know how much the view has moved. This is what we care about, right? This is what we have to react with the rest of components to our view. This is really simple though, but it's different on each of these views that I'm showing. The easiest is the scroll view. If you implement is it called on scroll change, you get directly the scroll Y that the view has moved. So every time on every stripe, on every fling, you get a callback saying, hey, it has moved 60, it has moved 70. So you already have that value, you can play with that. Recycle view will give you the delta that has moved since the previous call. So if you call now, if you get a call now, then in the next call it will give you the distance that it has traveled since the previous one. That will be like 10, 5, 15, depending on the speed. The only thing you need to do to get the absolute number is just have a member in your class and then add it up. And possibly the one which is a bit trickier is the list view, but it's again, because it doesn't expose that to yourself directly, but you can have it, you can get it if you get one of the views, like one of the view that you're interested in. Let's say you're playing with the header, which is our case. Then what we need to do is get the header and see the top Y of the header. This will represent how much has been moved up or down or sideways if you have a horizontally scrolling view. Let's say you're interested about the view 60. You have 60 items, you're interested about the scrolling of the total list. Well, you know that the 60th item, you know the position on the screen right now, and you know that if it's the 60th, it means that 59 come before. If you know the height of each of them, you can calculate the height of all of them, plus the top Y of 60, and you get the rest of the list of the scroll being navigated. But let's just keep it simple. Let's just stay with the header. With this kind of information, what we can do is things like, this is one of the simplest, the parallax, which has been abused in the last 2 years. So when one company did it, and everybody was doing it right after that because it looks so cool, it's so simple, and it is, as you know, this faked perception, this feeling of death, of traveling at some speed, and death caused by different views moving at different velocities, but really similar, right? And if you think about it, it's so simple. What do you have to do to make your views move at different velocity but really similar? Simply multiply by a ratio which is near to 1, right? If you have a view moving at 10 pixels per second, let's say, and you want another view to follow a bit behind, then you multiply that value that you get from this first view, which could be the scroll. Let's say you do 0.8 times, and then you will get that effect. And this is an example that you can see on this list. You can do it at a fixed rate, but you can also do it depending or reacting to scroll events, either in the view page or either on the list. So this gives you a lot of flexibility, and some effects are really cool. They look like way more complex, and you can do just such a simple mathematical operation as a multiplying. Now let's get to the next level. Let's say you have the scroll, but you want to do like we did before on the view page. We want to have finish and starting and finishing points. We want references. We want a view to be here when the scroll view is at which point, and the view to be in a finishing position when the scroll view is in a different point. We use for that a reference. Let's say we want our animation to happen. We want the profile picture to change its Y position when the list view is scroll between 0 and 50. Then the other thing we need to do is put a reference of 50 on the scroll Y, so that when the scroll is 0, that will be 0%, that will be 0 ratio. When the scroll of the view is 50, it will be 1. We already have our boundaries, and we can play with that, right? If it's more than 50, you can put a cap, you can put a maximum so that it doesn't go beyond. But again, we have our 0 to 1, and we can start playing with it the way we were playing before. We can just separate our values and do our graphs. Don't focus too much on the paths, we'll get to that in a sec. For now, just check the avatar. The avatar, just as I said before, we want it to be on the Y80 position when the list is not scrolled, but as it goes up, we want it to be maximum we are changing the scale, so we want it to be 0.5 when it's at the top, and we want it to be separated like 20, 30 pixels from the top. So that's it. We make our function, we use the previous method, or you do it yourself, but it's just a bit more cumbersome. We use the previous method that we showed to get the value out of the function, and you apply it to your views. It's as simple as that. As you can see here, scale is going until 0.6, I think, and translation is going from 0 to minus 160. Those values, you can get them yourself. Just throwing pills your way. You can review that later. You can check the source code. You can ping me here. I will just drop you different patterns which are really quick to apply. And if you like, don't stop here and keep thinking about new applications for your case, because I'm sure you have many of them. You can come up with nice ideas. This is another example of using the first visible item. You have that in the list view. You have that in the recycle view. You can get them in different ways. In the list view, you get it for free. Recycle view is a layout manager who knows who is the first visible item. And with that, let's say you have a list which has like 2,000 items or 600 items. You want to optimize the space, the height, so that you can fit them on the screen. You still may want to show some detail at the top, so you can do that using the first visible item. And it's one example. It's the typical use case of having a list and then going to the detail view. You open a new screen to browse details of that contact, for instance. You can show like a quick preview that way, for instance, with this approach. Next view I want to speak about, and that's one that comes close to me, because we had the need to at Wunderlist to build this view that would come from any part of the screen. It was draggable, so you can put them wherever you want, like hide it away with your finger with the fling, open it with the button, regardless. This view is OpenView. It's open source, and you can use it simply in your build.gradle. You can get it that way, and you add it to your XML, and it just works. You specify where you want it to be, top, left, right button, and you can do things like, in the beginning it was really simple. Now you can do things like Google Maps, for instance. You have in Google Maps, when you hit on a point of interest, there's a preview coming, which takes 120 pixels, and you can swipe it up. Now we have this kind of functionality here in that view as well. So you can really simply get some interaction which looks really similar. But it's not about selling you the view, it's about you playing with it. That's the goal. So obviously it has transformers already built in. It would be a shame if I was speaking here about transformers and this library didn't have. So it has 3 of them, which are already there, prepared for you. Some alpha, you can see all of them here. This is this light joy, which is this weird hard effect that we saw before. We have rotation, we have alpha. But of course, it's exposing the method for you so you can do whatever you want with it, pretty much. You see that you have 2 progresses, and that's because we have a preview. We have this view like Google Maps that comes before, like I said, and then you can swipe it all the way. And you can do transformation on both of them. And the view, obviously, is what's inside, so you can change it. And as I said, it's open source, so feel free to contribute. That will be fantastic. We'll be really glad about that, especially if you can apply some of the things that we saw here today. And the last part that I want to share with you today is paths, because this is something which has a lot of power, it has a lot of potential. it just came recently with in a shareware with Lollipop that's now getting much better, but there are a lot of options, and when you see it looks like super cumbersome, you see animation, it's like, oh my goodness, there's no way I can do that. But in fact, it is really easy. You know, animations is sometimes about splitting things into pieces and you know, tell a lie or fake it to the human eye, because our human eye is full of deficiencies, so it's really easy to make it fake. For instance, this looks like an animation. This animation looks like the fill of the stroke of the image is like kind of disappearing and turning into a line. That's how it looks. There's no where it is. It's two separate animations. One is the stroke of the image disappearing completely, and the other one is a line which is, it has like 2 pixels height and it's hidden behind. But they are tiny, they are synchronized, so that when one disappears, the other one becomes bigger, so that it looks to you that one is turning into the other. And then how do you do this now? Well, you have to first define, I'll go quickly because it's simple. There's a way for you to now define your paths on XML on Android. You can take an SVG that you can do in Illustrator or Sketch or nothing fancy. You don't have to go the designer way again, you don't have to throw away your career. You can do really simple things in Sketch, it's really simple to use. But if you have some kind of allergy to it, you can ask your designers, of course, that's always the option. The thing is that you can turn this into an XML, and when you turn this into paths, you can play with each of them separately. That's amazing. As soon as you have the vector drawable, you can create the animated vector drawable, which is only the, is it coming? Animated vector drawable, there you go. Which is just a reference to the path and then animations, different animations that you want to do to it, referencing the different paths, the different subpaths of your path. I don't know if that makes sense, but in our case we have the 2 semicircles, which are the 2 paths that we have, the right and the left side. And on each of them we want to make the same animation. We want to make it disappear from the top to the center. So it makes this, it generates this effect that it's collapsing somehow. Right now you have to do all of this by XML. You can do this by code, but if you want to make a bit more a bit complex, or let's say combine things, this right now the API is not too exposed. I expect and I hope that this is going to come, I'm sure, because this is really young still. But for now, this is the let's say the easiest way to do it. But when it comes on the API and code, there are many things that will be available to you, and we'll see one animation right at the end that will show that. So as soon as we have the animated vector drawable, which, let's remember, it's the path with the animations, the only thing we have to define is the animation that we want to do, and that's, again, pretty simple. This one, possibly is one of them, it's 2 items, but trim path start, trim path end. What they do is they cut the path itself, so which is really, it's amazing because it follows the direction of the path. So you can make animations like simulate some writing or compose images that they are being built right now, but they are not. This is what the path does, is it just cuts, since the subpaths are in the end lines and curves that start on a point and finish on another point. With this you can trim the lines and animate that, which can cause this nice effect. So if you see here, we are trimming the start and the end from the beginning and the end to the half, so that it generates this collapsing effect. You can experiment, there are already many animations like this. So if it sounds a bit confusing now, don't panic. You will get it really soon. It took me like, I don't know, 3 or 4 tries. I'm normally really slow with these kind of things, so if I got it, you will get it for sure. So as soon as you specify the animators, you can reference them in the animated vector drawable that we had before. And then it's just as simple as before. As if you have any animated drawable, you just put it into an image view or Sandbox or Canvas, and you can just, to animate it, you just say start, and the animation starts. It's just really simple. It's just as it worked with any other animated drawable that you have used before. But now let's show something that looks nicer, right? We say that we can do really cool things really easily, and I'm delivering here the promise. So we are building this pull to refresh, which is, I would love to see in GitHub, for instance, this pull to refresh of branches. That would be awesome. And then as you go down, the tree is building itself from the top onto the root, and then when you hit the root, you should refresh, right? So that looks like hard, but it's in fact really, really easy to do. The only thing you have to do is just have to separate two concepts, and then you have it. First thing is that, as we have been speaking about scrollable list views, view pages, anything that you can fling and swipe around, and then you get this progress value, like how much far have I gone. It's the same with the pull to refresh. You can, I don't think it's exposed on the ones that Google is sharing, but it's really easy to get it, and it's on this repo that I've exposed and open sourced. As soon as you have this progress, you have this 0 to 1 that you want to get to. The only thing you need to do is prepare this path and just divide it into different subpaths. You see the numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is the order. So I have an SVG or an XML on Android that has each of the different paths. And the only thing you need to do is, as soon as you are progressing with the fling, as soon as you reach each point, then you trigger one of the, you trigger animation in each of the paths. So for instance, you see these lines over here? The first line is what triggers the first leaf, the number 1, and so on and so forth. And the last one is what triggers the animation of this. So as you go down, you just need to work on the timing to get it right, but it just takes 2-3 tries. It's simple, it looks nice, and as you can imagine, the options from here are endless. You can do any kind of, if you have a path somewhere, and you can split it into parts, and you have this scroll, you can do pretty much whatever you want. I think that took 3-4 hours to build with no knowledge of animated vector drawers. It was the first time that I was doing it. So check it out, you will like it. And one thing that will help you to get there is this URL, which I have nothing to do, promise. It's simply, if you have an SVG, you can put it there, and it will try to get the Android version, because the SVG and the XML format, they have a bit of this few discrepancies, but normally it matches. Like, unless you want to build a whole image city in SVG and then turn it, you will have no problem. So you just get to this URL, you drop the file there, and then you will get it. You will get the XML. You may need to do a couple of adjustments, but the result, you just put it in 100 and you have the path. So it's really simple. And we haven't spoken about many things because there's no time. You have coordinated layouts, you have activity transitions, you have animations, you have view property animations, you have tons more. But the same rule applies. You can do really good things with a small effort, right? Some things will take you a couple of hours, and you're already investing, I'm sure, some hours on getting SQLite to do what you want to do, to migrate your models, to, I don't know, to create indexes. So really, it's really worth investing that time, because this is all something that the users will see, and not everybody is doing. Maybe after this talk, now everybody's doing it, and it's not special anymore. But I respect that. And also you have the things that you can do in your app are different than the things that he can do in his app. So you'll always find added value. Again, the same applies. It's really simple as you saw. It's just always a couple of classes, a couple of XMLs, and you get going, and a bit of thoughts and a pen and paper, and then you have it. So the message is not to be afraid about it, regardless of how complex it looks. Because it's definitely not a product manager, which is scary, I know. And it's definitely not Objective-C with these brackets in the methods. Those things are scary. This is not. So I hope, or I would like that I have encouraged you a bit to go to work on your app and try this out, because there's an impact that you can make. And in the end, the goal is to make the apps more lovable. These are apps that I personally like a lot. And when you see them, you always, because when I see them, I always get this wow effect. It's like I feel good. This is what keeps me going back to them. And the same as me, it keeps many users going back to them. So I would love that every app that I build will be looked, or at least could resemble this. I want to be able to translate this good feeling, regardless if I do cooking apps or delivery apps or bike apps. It doesn't matter. I want to translate this good feeling and possibly get attention of many users that I wouldn't get. And this is what I have for you. As I said, these are here my Twitter, Google Plus accounts. Thank you so much for making it till here with me. Any questions or anything that you have, I will be here. And really quickly, we are hiring talented engineers, Android, iOS, web, backend. I'm sure there's more Androids here. But yeah, we're working in Berlin. We're doing this cool bike log. We are really excited, regardless of what you have seen in the press. That's pretty old. We are doing cool stuff now, not before. So please come talk to me if you may. And if there are questions, raise your voice. Thank you. Come on, was it so confusing that there's no questions? There you go.
Thank you. Okay, just one question regarding the animated drawables. Is it possible, maybe if you know, is it possible to use them to animate pins on Google Maps?
Pins?
Yeah.
I think
markers.
I think that will depend on the Google Maps API somehow, because in the end this is a marker, and now if you can extract the drawable, for sure, yeah. For sure, yes, it might be a way, but the marker itself, it really depends on the Google Maps API. I think there could be ways, because you can set your custom marker, and from there, and you have to add a drawable. It will be a nice try, in fact, yeah. If you pass a drawable to the marker and then you animate the drawable, what happens? It would be interesting to see if it works. But that's what I will try. Yeah.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
There's a cushion here to give away, if Immobilien Scout allows me to, for a good question. Okay.
Hi, thanks for the good speech. And one question regarding the use of SVGs. So the vector drawable is somewhat new, but if we want like backwards compatibility for SVG use, is there some library or solution that could be used to go towards the APIs 14 or 10 or something like that?
For now, there is the vector compat, but it's doing something different. You can get the vectors and this at compile time. It will create SVGs for different resolutions. But this is a thing really different from what we're doing here. From what I know, but I might be wrong, there's nothing yet. I would expect though that there's something exposed because it's something that I expect to be widely used from now on. But as far as I know, the only thing that you have, the vector compat that you have right now, it's only for creating rasterized images from USB keys on compile time now.
Yeah, I've also heard from Victor and then Mr. Vector, but I have no experience with those.
You mean outside of the Google support, right?
Yeah, so basically someone.
Yeah, sure, there are a couple of them, but it's always hard to get the full support. You'll have to check them one by one. Yeah. I don't have experience with any of them.
Hi there. I have a question as well, and it's about, you talked the line is 2 pixels big. So how does it work out with different densities?
Well, it's 2dp, in fact. I was just using pixels to make it a bit simple to understand, but yeah, it's always dp's. That's the rule of thumb. Don't go crazy with pixels. I think there's one specific case where it's okay to use pixels, but I don't remember right now. But yeah, dp always. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Sorry.
So there are not any questions anymore. At first, thank you, Jose.
Thank you.
A small speaker gift for you. That we appreciate you are here for us to say something.
Nice. Thank you so much.
So if you want to be a speaker next time, thank you. So